What's up, guys? It's me, aka Rakxm, and I'm going to be kicking off some new review stuff. By reviews, I mean I'm going to go through and talk about some comic books that I picked up back on Free Comic Book Day. I know it's been a hot minute since Free Comic Book Day. It's actually been over a month, and it's a little bit late to be, talking about stuff as in like, hey, spoiler alert, this is what came out. But it's still a lot of really cool stuff that I do want to talk about. So I'm just going to go right on through everything I picked up. I did pick up everything that you could possibly have gotten on Free Comic Book Day. So let's just jump right in. So first up, we've got The Only Living Boy, which I thought was a very beautifully drawn piece of work. The story was compelling. I'm actually very intrigued to see where it goes. It's basically exactly what it sounds like. It's the only living boy left alive, and he's teaming up with a bunch of freaks and, foreign aliens to kind of just stop this militant group from ruling everything, as they have been for quite a while now. So definitely worth a read if you haven't picked one up already. You're probably not going to be able to find a Free Comic Book Day issue, but you can always check eBay. It is what it is. Next up, we have A Brief History of Tank Girl. The only thing I know about Tank Girl is that it has, the movie that came out has the girl from Orange is the New Black, the one that went and lost her mind. As far as what this was, it was actually exactly what it sounds like. It told you pretty much who Tank Girl is, where her comics came from, and where she's been for the last, few years. So that's really cool, and it's got really nice art style to it. Again, Brief History of Tank Girl. If you haven't read any Tank Girls, like I have, I'm actually very intrigued to read them. I do know that some of the artwork was done by the guy that does the Gorillaz covers for the band The Gorillaz. So I mean, that's a plus right there. Like, I love that style, and this was just a fun read because you got to see, who Tank Girl is without having to really go and backtrack all of the comics that she's ever been in. Next up, I've got Adventure Time with Fiona and Cake. Now, Adventure Time is something I've never actually gotten a chance to sit down and watch, but what I do know is that Fiona and Cake are like the female gender swap of the main characters Finn and Jake. So I think it's really cool that instead of doing just another dog in a different gender, they actually made Cake a cat, because as most of you know, it's very common to have the males with dogs, females with cats. I did like the art style. It is very fun, and it was a kind of a juvenile elementary story, but again, the target audience is going to love that. It is, after all, a kids show. So it wasn't a bad story. It just was a little less mature than what I'm used to reading. So there's that. Next up, we've got the Wormworld Saga. The first time I picked it up, I swore it said the Wormwood Saga, but I'm dumb. So basically what this is, it's kind of like Chronicles of Narnia. Like, literally, there's this mirror that this kid goes through, and he's in this completely different realm. The artwork is gorgeous. It's, I mean, at this point I don't have to worry about, spoilers or anything. But you've got gorgeous artwork, and as I said, there's a mirror that this kid goes through, or not a mirror, a painting. He goes through a painting and takes his little girlfriend with him, and basically they just have to not get stuck in the worm world, because it's a world of monsters, and nobody wants to get stuck in a world of monsters. At least I don't. So next up, we've got Starburns Presents. Now this one, I will not lie, it was kind of hard to get through. The first story in it is called Comics, just singular. And it's just, no offense to Patton Oswalt as an actor. I love most of the roles that he's played. This was just really hard to get through, partially from the writing, partially from the artwork. The artwork was done by Michelle Madsen and Troy Nixie. Now, it wasn't bad artwork. It's just, it wasn't really my style. It was very Mad Magazine-esque. And to me, that was just, it's not my thing. So, like I said, it was kind of hard to get through. The next one in this same anthology book is called Oddwell. It's literally the story of a group of flies training for the military. And it was fun. Like, this one was really fun for me to read. And it kind of just makes fun of the fact that flies only live for like 24 hours, according to, story and all that. And they're basically spending their entire life training for this military excursion where they're all going to die regardless. The next story is called Helicious, also within this same Starburns issue. Helicious is, in my mind, a very Scotty Young style story. It's about a little girl that is kind of a psycho, and from what I pick up, it's supposed to be, they're supposed to be like cooking or something. I don't know. It wasn't enough to know what was going on, but it was enough to get my interest. And that being said, I'm probably going to pick up more Helicious if and when it comes out. Then the last issue, or the last story in this one is called Gregory Graves' Kill Your Idols, or He'll Kill Them For You. Gregory Graves is a story told from the perspective of someone interviewing an inmate that is a supervillain. And what we know is that this person interviewing them is very much like Clark Kent. He's actually a superhero in disguise, and he's just getting Gregory's life story as to why he turned out to be such a shit kind of villain at the end. And it was really cool to read. It was just fun to kind of get the villain's perspective on things, because as every great villain just doesn't wake up one day and say, I'm going to be evil. It's a story. It's a build-up to where it is, and eventually, things just keep getting worse and worse for him before he finally just snaps and becomes a villain. So that's the last one in Starburns Presents. At the very last page, there was a little bit of a mini comic with some Italian guy. I think it's just mostly to promote a podcast. I didn't really go really deep into it, so I'm not going to talk about it. Next up, we have Invasion, not the DC Invasion comic, which was a whole other thing. I'll get to that at some point. This one is done by Chapter House, who is famous for doing Captain Canuck. Captain Canuck is basically a parody of Captain America, but he's kind of a badass. So what Invasion is, as you can see, it is aliens invading Earth. And basically the aliens in this story they're basically coming to wipe out humanity because they have deemed them unworthy of survival. They're unworthy of existence. And so it's up to Captain Canuck and the various heroes from around the world to stop this invasion. So, we'll see how that goes. Next up is from the Valiant world, the 4001 AD stuff. So this is Shadow Man, and this actually had three stories. The first one actually revolves around Shadow Man and finding Shadow Man, and just kind of figuring out what's going on in the bayous of New Orleans area. The next one we have was an Exo-Man of War story, which I don't know anything about any of this Valiant stuff. I barely even know who Bloodshot is, and I only know who he is because of Jason David Frank doing the Bloodshot stuff. So Exo-Man of War's story is basically just him trying to get back to Earth, and it's going to be a long trip for him because he is a long ways from home, and that's about all there is. It's not really a whole lot of story. It's just him talking to his suit and trying to get himself back to his home world of Earth. And then the last story in the Shadow Man one is the beginning of Harbinger Wars 2. Back in the 90s, they did a story called The Harbinger Wars. Never read it. I'm interested, though. I do like the Valiant stuff. It is kind of cool to read because it's real, gritty superhero type stuff. This one is basically just focusing on modern technologies and how they are such a problem about, the modern day society. It talks a lot about a group called the Psiots, Psiots. I don't know what that is, and I wish there was more to them in this story, but, it is what it is. You do what you can with it. And it's basically just building up saying the Harbinger Wars 2 will be starting soon. And I'm interested, and I know that a lot of people that like the big crossover stuff will be interested. And, yeah, let's push on through to the next thing. Next up is a very kid-friendly one. It is about two cats that have built a robot dog suit because they want to be heroes. And the artwork is just funny, it's cute, it's playful. And the biggest reason that they're doing it is because cats, let's be real, if you saw a cat jump down in a well to try and save a child, you're going to be like, that's a gross cat trying to get that child. But because they're in a robot dog suit, it's much easier for them to do. And I mean, like I said, it's really kid-friendly, but it's also very cute, and I loved reading it. It was one of those, like, I was laughing at these young child jokes, even though they were intended for kids. So, it transcends generations, I guess, one could say. This next one is My Hero Academia. I know absolute zilch about this story. All I know from reading this issue is that it involves a kid bashing the crap out of another kid. And, I mean, there's really nothing better than watching kids beat each other up. The secondary story for this was one of those RWBYs, I guess it's pronounced Ruby, but I don't know, stories. I know nothing about Ruby. I know that it's a YouTube series, but that's it. Like, beyond that, it's beyond me what it's about. It was kind of cool to read. The artwork was nice. I just had no idea who any of the characters were, so it was kind of confusing to me. But that's neither here nor there. It wasn't my thing, so I move on. Next up, I have the Doctor Who anthology one. Well, I say anthology, really, it was a handful of stories. The first one was called Catch a Falling Star. It introduces a new character. Her name is Gabby Gonzalez. And basically what it is this girl meets the Doctor and ends up falling through time. And in her mind, she's accepting that it's her time to die. She is ready to accept death. She's been traveling with the 10th Doctor for a while now. And at the end of it all, right when she thinks she's about to die, she's caught by the 12th Doctor. And she basically is like, it was my time to die. By doing this, you're breaking all the laws. And he's just like, I'm the Doctor. I do what I want. So it was kind of cool to see two different Doctors involved in the same story. The next one was the Armageddon Gambit, where the 7th Doctor and Ace show up and basically stop an intergalactic war from happening before it happens. So that's cool. I don't know much about the 7th Doctor. The only times I've really seen him was in a Doctor Who movie and a couple of books that I read about, like when they translated the TV series to books. That's it. And then the last one that they had in this one was called The Midnight Feast. And this one was cool because you got to see the 11th Doctor interacting with a whole bunch of different alien races that have shown up in the TV series. And he literally stops a potential war by having two different races eat the same kind of foods. So it's very much Doctor Who being Doctor Who, or rather, the Doctor being the Doctor. So, all pretty cool stories to read. Next up, we have Miraculous. I know it's a CGI TV show. I know it's a superhero-esque TV show. I know nothing else about it. This issue has 3 stories in it. There's the homework essay where Miraculous Girl, I don't know what her name is, like the Ladybug maybe, writes an essay about her parents and how they inspire her. So, I mean, it's all very basic stories. Like, it's meant to help girls and boys that are coming of age to understand, sometimes inspiration comes from where you least expect it. The next one is called The Notebook. And when I first read it, I was very confused because it was all out of order. And then I realized it just got printed out of order. It's basically just an anti-bullying mini-comic. So it is what it is. A girl buys a notebook and everyone or a bunch of people are teasing her like it looks silly. And then her friends gather around her and make it so that it's a very special notebook to her. So it's heartwarming, it's fun, it's, easy peasy read. And, once you figure out the right reading order, it's no big deal. The last part of the Miraculous issue is a mini-story about a squirrel named Sammy, who is a samurai. Samurai Sammy the Squirrel. And it's just a fun introduction to the character. She's, it is, like, it's just fun. It's very cartoony, very very much what you would expect at the back of a kid's comic. So it was fun, and I'd say it was my favorite part of that particular issue. So yeah, I'd say I've made it about a quarter of the way through the free comic book day stuff. I'm gonna stop there for tonight, and I'll post the rest of it in the days to come. Mostly just because I don't want you guys to have to sit there and listen to my voice for, you know, this much longer. So I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching the first part of Rakxm Reviews, Free Comic Book Day 2018. So this is my 50th video. So, I mean, there's that. That's a big deal, and normally I would celebrate something like that, but I don't have anything to celebrate with. Like, I don't have any poppers or anything, but I promise you, for my 100th video, it's going to be a celebration, the likes of which y'all have never seen, or something like that. I don't know. We'll see. But thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys next time.